All right, so we're diving into Confessions of Stock Market Wizards by Jack Schwager. I mean, who doesn't want to know the secret to becoming a stock market wizard, right? I gotta be honest, though, part of me is a little skeptical. Like, is it really possible for just anyone to achieve that kind of success?
Well, that's what makes this book so fascinating, you know?
Yeah.
Schwager interviewed all these top traders, guys who are at the top of their game. And the surprising thing is, it's less about just being some kind of financial genius with a sky-high IQ.
Oh, really? So what is it then?
It's more about, well, mastering the mental game.
Okay, so we're talking psychology now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get that psychology is important, but you still need some serious analytical skills to succeed in the market, right? You have to
Yeah.
know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Analytical skills are definitely important, no doubt about it. But here's the thing. Think about it for a second.
Mhm.
We all make bad decisions when we're letting our emotions get the better of us, right?
Mm.
Like when we're driven by fear or greed.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the market, it just takes those emotions and puts them under a microscope. It magnifies everything.
So even the smartest people can make like really bad trades if they aren't in control of their emotions.
Exactly. One trader in the book, he even said that he'd rather miss out on a winning trade than take a losing one.
Ah, really? That's
Because he
one
knew that taking those unnecessary risks, it would just mess with his head.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And that's how much these guys, these top traders, prioritize risk management. They get it.
That's wild. I mean, I've always been more focused on chasing those big wins,
Yeah.
like trying to hit a home run every time. But if these wizards, if they're more concerned about not losing, that kind of changes the whole game. It's a different way of thinking about it.
It really is. It's about shifting your perspective. Instead of seeing risk as this scary thing to be avoided at all costs, you learn to understand it,
Mm.
to manage it.
Okay.
Like they use things like stop-loss orders,
Right.
not just to limit their losses, but also to control their emotions.
Okay, yeah, I get the whole stop loss thing. It's like an automatic safety net, right? It sells the stock if it drops to a certain price that you set. But how does that tie into the psychology of trading?
Well, imagine this. You buy a stock, and then it starts tanking, going down.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly you're panicking,
Been there.
right?
Right.
So what do? Do you sell? Do you cut your losses right then and there? Or do you hold on, hoping and praying that it's going to rebound?
Yeah, tough choice.
Yeah, a stop-loss order, it takes the emotion out of it.
So you're not second guessing yourself every time the market takes a dip.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But didn't you say that there's no like one size fits all approach to trading?
Right. That's one of the most encouraging things about the book, actually. The wizards that Schwager interviewed, they use totally different styles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Some of them are trend followers, like Richard Dennis.
Okay.
He was all about riding those big market waves.
Uh-huh.
But then you have others, like Mark Minervini, who are all about fundamental analysis.
Oh, so like digging into the nitty-gritty of a company's financials.
Exactly. Balance sheets, income statements, the whole 9 yards.
So you have one guy riding the wave and the other guy's looking for buried treasure, basically. But they both made a killing in the market. That's pretty inspiring. It means there's not just one right way to trade.
You got it. It really comes down to finding a style that matches your personality and your strengths.
Okay.
Are you a big picture thinker who can spot trends from a mile away? Or are you more detail oriented?
Yeah.
The kind of person who's comfortable spending hours poring over those balance sheets.
I've always struggled with finding my own trading style. It feels like I'm constantly jumping between different approaches, trying to find that magic formula.
Yes, hear you.
But this idea of playing to your strengths, that's a real light bulb moment for me. It's like, why haven't I thought of it that way before?
Yeah, it's like anything really. You got to experiment a bit, to find what works for you. And speaking of finding what works, I mean, Schweiger, he doesn't sugarcoat things in the book. He's pretty upfront about the fact that all these traders, all these wizards, they've all faced some pretty huge setbacks along the way.
Boy, wait a minute. So even these wizards, even the best of the best, they make mistakes. I mean, that makes me feel a little better about my own trading blunders, gotta be honest.
Oh, yeah. They definitely mess up.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. But what really sets them apart is how they deal with failure.
Yeah.
They don't let it just completely paralyze them.
Right. Yeah.
They actually see it as like a crucial part of the learning process.
Okay. I mean, that sounds good in theory,
Yeah.
but how do they actually put that into practice? How do they turn those losses into actual lessons? Losing money's never fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. But one trader in the book, he talks about how after a particularly bad trade, one that really stung, he went back and like meticulously analyzed every single decision he made along the way, every step.
Yeah.
And Turns out he had totally ignored this key indicator.
Oh.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it was like screaming at him,
Mhm.
signaling a reversal.
Ouch. Yeah, I can see how that would be a wake-up call.
A painful one.
So he basically turned that one big mistake into a new rule for his trading system.
Exactly. He made sure he never overlooked that indicator ever again. And that's the kind of disciplined analytical thinking,
Yeah.
that really separates the amateurs from the pros.
Yeah.
They're constantly refining their approach,
Yeah.
tweaking their systems, learning from every single trade, win or lose.
So it's like they're obsessed with self-improvement, but in the trading world, it's
Yeah.
like becoming a wizard isn't about having some magical talent. It's about dedication. It's about
Yeah.
constantly pushing yourself to get better.
You hit the nail on the head. Schwager makes it very clear that these traders, they're not superhuman. They're not these mythical creatures.
Yeah.
They're just incredibly dedicated to their craft. They're constantly studying, they're analyzing, they're evolving their strategies, and they're not afraid to challenge their own assumptions and, adapt to those changing market conditions.
This is really making me rethink my whole approach. I tend to get so discouraged when things go wrong.
Yeah.
But what if I started seeing those losses as valuable feedback, as opportunities to learn and grow?
Now you're talking, that's the spirit. It's all about that mindset shift. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. Schwager's book, it's like a treasure trove of wisdom and insights from all these incredibly successful traders. It's like having a personal mentor, guiding you through all the ups and downs of the market.
Okay, so let's recap what we've learned today.
Okay.
We've seen how crucial the mental game is, mastering your emotions, developing that discipline, and creating systems to kind of mitigate your weaknesses. Those are all essential ingredients for success.
Yeah.
And it's not just about avoiding losses. It's about understanding and controlling risk as part of your strategy.
For sure.
Right. And we've also seen that there's no single path to success. The key is to find a trading style that aligns with your personality and your strengths. But perhaps the most important takeaway here is that failure is not the end. It's an opportunity to learn, adapt, and become a more resilient and successful trader.
Absolutely. So what does all this mean for our listener? What's their biggest takeaway from this deep dive? What aspect of their trading approach are they most inspired to work on? Maybe it's time to revisit their risk management strategy or explore a new trading style that's more aligned with their personality.
Or maybe they're just inspired to, double down on their commitment to learning and self-improvement.
Whatever it is, remember that the journey to becoming a stock market wizard, it starts with a single step.
And who knows, maybe one day Schwager will be interviewing you for his next book.
Haha, that would be something. But in all seriousness, we hope this deep dive has given our listeners some valuable insights and inspiration for their trading journey. Remember, the market is always evolving, so stay curious, keep learning, and never stop challenging yourself. And most importantly, don't be afraid to make mistakes. As we've learned from the wizards themselves, failure, it's just another stepping stone on the path to success.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Confessions of Stock Market Wizards. It's been an eye-opening experience.
My pleasure. I hope our listeners feel inspired to take their trading to the next level.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll be reading about their success stories in Schwager's next book.
Now, that would be something.
Until next time, happy trading, everyone.
One thing that really stuck with me from the book was how Schwager talks about self-awareness. It's not just about managing your emotions.
Oh, really? What do you mean?
Well, he's talking about knowing your intellectual strengths and weaknesses, too.
Yeah.
Like some of these wizards, they were incredible number crunchers, like
Yeah.
spending hours analyzing spreadsheets and financial statements. But then others were much more intuitive, relying on gut feelings and recognizing patterns to make their decisions.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I've always felt more comfortable looking at the big picture, spotting those trends, instead of getting lost in the weeds of a company's balance sheet.
Exactly. And the point is, neither approach is inherently better than the other. It's about understanding your own cognitive style. Like, are you a data-driven person, someone who loves analysis? Or do you trust your instincts more? Maybe you're the kind of person who can spot patterns that others miss.
Right, so it's like playing to your strengths, like we were talking about with finding your trading style. If you're a numbers person, dive deep into the data. If you're more intuitive, maybe focus on technical analysis or trend following.
Precisely. It's about tailoring your approach to fit your unique strengths and how you think you know. There's no one-size-fits-all blueprint for success in the market. What works for one person might be a disaster for someone else.
That's actually really empowering. It means you don't have to try to be someone you're not. you can embrace your own way of thinking and find an approach that resonates with you.
I think that's one of the most valuable takeaways from Schwager's book. It demystifies the idea of the stock market wizard. It shows us that these incredibly successful traders, they're not some breed apart.
Right.
They've just figured out how to leverage their strengths and develop a system that works for them.
It all comes back to that self-awareness, doesn't it? Knowing
Yeah.
yourself, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, that's the foundation for everything else.
Absolutely. It's like that old saying, know thyself. It applies to life, and it definitely applies to trading.
Well, this deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
I'm definitely seeing trading in a whole new light. It's not just about picking stocks. It's about understanding yourself, managing your emotions, and finding that approach that really aligns with your strength.
And never stop learning. The market is always changing, so you got to be constantly adapting and evolving those strategies. But most importantly, enjoy the journey. Trading can be incredibly rewarding, both intellectually and financially, if you approach it with the right mindset.
I couldn't agree more. Well, hey, thanks for guiding us through this deep dive into Confessions of Stock Market Wizards. It's been really eye-opening.
My pleasure. Hopefully our listeners feel inspired to take their trading to the next level.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll be reading about their success stories in Schwager's next book.
Now that would be something.
Well, until next time, happy trading, everyone.